If you are not following me on Instagram, then you definitely should, because I've been crushing the Reels game lately. I don't know if I've been crushing it, but I've been crushing the amount of Reels that I published compared to previously. One of the Reels that I made recently was this Reel, and there was a lot of you that enjoyed it. I think it got like 70,000 views in less than 24 hours. And then I made another Reel, which is this Reel, and I thought, why not show you the behind the scenes of how I did those Reels, because those are super simple. It's just a little bit of editing magic and thinking about the editing process, as I'm always saying. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that first. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. There's a lot of fun stuff going on there. Okay, so for this specific Reel, I wanted to make sure that I had this Anchor Nebula transformed into this power bank, and my initial impression was that it's gonna be very hard to make this happen because first off, they have rubber feet. I came up with a solution. So what I did was that I took a piece of cardboard and taped it to the feet. Now, when I'm spinning it, you can see that we get a little bit of a gliding action here on the table. And it's also very important that you have a nice, clean table when you're doing this, and you can't be afraid of the table, because if you are afraid of the table, I mean more, you can't have a nice table that you don't want to scratch, because this will scratch your table. Then I basically did the same thing to the Anchor powerhouse, so that when I spin this, we can make a cool transition in between these. But to the actual transition, when you're shooting this, you want to make sure that you have the camera on a tripod. And the reason that you want to have this is because there can't be any sort of movement into the shot. It has to be locked off. And when you have it locked off, you also got to make sure that you set your camera to manual focus, so that even though you're moving away or even though you're moving in, focus plane is going to be the same. Because when you have it locked, you can see that when I drag this into focus, it looks sharp, and when I push it away, it looks unsharp. I was using the 24mm f1.4, shot it at around 2.8 to make sure that the focal plane is not super narrow. So when you're setting the focus point for this, it's very important that you set both products into focus first, so that, for example, you set the focus on the first one and then try it with the second one to make sure that you actually set the right, correct focus point. And you also need to make sure that you have total control of the lighting in the environment that you're in. Otherwise, you're going to be able to see something in the background that changes, or maybe a light spot coming in, or maybe the difference in light, you know. And to give it that extra pop, I was using a nanlite powder tube on this side to make sure that I have the orange look. Then I had the blue one on this side, so that when you have the camera in center, you have a little bit of a like teal and orange look. And what I did was that I stood behind the camera, and then you gotta make sure that you have enough space to move your hand in another frame, and then you basically just spin it so that you get a nice end frame. And then as soon as you spin it, try to move your arm out of the frame. There we go. Just trying trial and error until we have a good one. There we go. So once you have that shot, you make sure that you do the same thing with the other product, but spin it the opposite direction, because we're going to reverse the first clip when we jump into the editing process. I don't know if I told you, but I do have a screen right here. So instead of moving the camera all the way over here, I can actually do the edit right here and just record the screen. It feels weird. I'm not really used to this, but why not? Spin reel. Well, is that okay, eller? Quick time, record, display 2. The cool thing is that this editing is gonna work in any sort of program. It's not like tied to Final Cut Pro. I'm not using any sort of plugins that is exclusive to Final Cut Pro. So you can do this in Premiere, FX Home, HitFilm, DaVinci, literally almost any sort of editing software can do this. First off, we're going to create a new project. I'm going to choose vertical, and then we're going to choose 2160 by 3840, and I'm shooting mine in 25 FPS, no slow-mo tricks going on here. I'm gonna hit OK, and then we're just gonna drag the clip to the timeline. And usually the way that it works is that the last spin is the best, because that is where I switch the product. Then we're just gonna scroll back when the product starts to spin, and you can see just before my hand touches. So at this point, we're gonna cut. Playing this back, you can see that we have a nice spin. Okay, so what I want to do now is that I want to cut here, and then I want to add this on top because we want to mask out my hand. I'm going to choose the draw mask, add that to the top clip, and then we're going to go into the inspector, and we are going to set a couple of points here so that we can mask out my hand all the way around. There we go. So scrolling forward from frame 1, there's no hand to be seen, and we are just outside of frame. We can even feather this a little bit to give it a little bit smoother. So if we were to hide this layer, you would see my hand going out of frame, but now with the layer there, you can't see my hand. And now we can take those two clips, hit Alt-G to make a compound clip, bam. And now we want to spin this the other way. So we're going to choose the little clock here and reverse clip. So what happens now is that it starts from standing still to spinning, okay? Now we're gonna get the other product, which is, again, the last clip usually. So we're gonna take right there and we're gonna cut it. And now we're just gonna duplicate this. We're gonna cut right here, delete that, drag this back. And once again, the draw mask. We're gonna do the same thing here where we have the draw mask just hitting the top of the product, like so, up. Here we go, all the way around. And as you can see here, there might be some keyframing that we have to do to the control points. As you can see here, the first frame, it could be a little bit lower. So we're gonna take this and angle that, adjust it. I think that we are good to go right there. And we're gonna go up to the control points and we're gonna hit that. We're gonna move one frame forward and adjust this side. So that would just adjust for the product once it's spinning. And we can move forward all the way until this point. Just move this up, and I think that that should be good. Then we're gonna mark both of the clips, Alt-G, create a compound clip. And if we play this back now, that is pretty cool, huh? What you can do is that you can add in a bunch of draw masks to make it expand a little bit and just, you know, do those fine-tuning details. So say, for example, that we want to make sure that this feels like it's actually transforming and not just spinning into the new product. What we can do is that we can choose the last part of the spinning clip from the big product. And we are going to move this a few frames back. 1, 2, 3 frames that we can use. What I want to do is that I want to set a mask all the way around the product that we have. This is the same thing I did with the Ronin one as well, to give it a little bit of like extra smoothness, if you may. We can have this feathered. You can see that the opacity is set to 42. We can set it to maybe even like 12 and then move forward until the last shot and then drag this up to like 82. What you can do now to get the reverse thing is that you can mark all of these and then Alt-G, create another compound clip, and then you can just hold Alt, duplicate this, choose the little clock, and then reverse the clip, and then you can just cut it down to just before it starts to move, and one more time, just for the sake of it. And there you go. That's how simple it is to make one of those spin transitions. Really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I mean, like, if you're here, if you're watching the video, if you enjoyed my presentation of said thing that you have learned in this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Peter from Sweden is saying goodbye. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.